You're good.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tara. I'd like to convene this meeting of the Executive Committee of SPJ. We are coming, if anybody's watching on the stream, we're in Scottsdale, Arizona. We're in the middle of a very productive membership strategy session with our consultant, Tim Daniel. We spent the entire morning going over survey results from the membership, survey results from the participants here, and putting out a tremendous number of issues on the table that we'll be working on all afternoon and tomorrow morning. We'll be happy to provide an update within the next week or so. I think I told Michael that we would have some kind of phone call or Skype session or Zoom session now, as I guess we do, to go over what we had, and we're seeking to put together an action plan that we can share with the board at the April meeting. First order of business, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Yes. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to call up the, so somebody could help me out. That would be wonderful. I think we're going to get the, sorry about that.
Okay.
So it's having some technical difficulties here. All right, Fletcher?
Here.
Walsh?
Here.
McCluskey?
Here.
Radsky?
Here.
Katzeff? Here. Newts?
Here.
And Baker? Here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to work through the agenda that we had because it's about 8 minutes after 12. We are under a fairly tight time deadline. We have a number of things we want to cover. First is we have 2 sets of minutes from prior executive committee meetings, June 27, 2015, and January 6, 2016. I'll entertain a motion that we approve those minutes.
So move.
Second.
Yes, Bill.
The January 6 minutes need to be amended and captioned as being the executive. Doesn't say that we were on.
Very good, thank you. Can we correct that, and we'll take that as an amendment that we can just that we can make. Any other?
Is someone taking minutes?
I am. Can you repeat what that was, please?
January 6th needs to be captioned executive committee.
Instead, currently says board. Good catch. Any other corrections or additions, subtractions? All in favor of approving these 2 sets of minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Very good, thank you. Next item is to approve the delegate meeting minutes. The meetings of September 18, 2015 and September 20, 2015. I'll entertain a motion that we approve.
So move.
Second,
Discussion.
September 20th, resolution 2 needs to be changed to Carl.
Okay. Any other corrections, additions? Okay, thank you for that, Bill. Changing Carl's name to Carl. Are there any other points? All in favor of approving these 2 sets of minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Very good. All 4 sets of minutes are approved. The next item is the report from the SPJ president, and I put in a lengthy statement in the packet with the idea, knowing that we were going to have a limited amount of time for this meeting. Please take a look at that because it goes over what we have, what we've been doing. The main thing that I'd like to emphasize from the first 4 months of this SPJ year is the thank you for getting all those. Is the level of our advocacy efforts. We have been doing a great deal, and probably the highlight of the first 4 months would be our visit to the White House, in which case we took several SPJ volunteers, a representative from the Society of Environmental Writers, and a rep from the American Society of News Editors, and we met with Josh Earnest, President Obama's press secretary. I wrote my quill column on that to give people a kind of you were there example of what we talked about. In fact, that's the title of the column. So I did put that into the board minutes, or the part of the board packet, knowing that the quill wouldn't be published for another couple of months. So take a look at that. Thank you.
Well done, Paul.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, it was, I would say, well done, Jennifer Royer, who did a lot of yay, Jennifer, who did a tremendous amount of legwork and continues to do a lot of legwork for us in trying to get in touch with the White House for some kind of follow-up, which they promised us. One of the big things that we had happen at that meeting, it was not long after the new Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, took office in that nation. And very shortly after he became the Prime Minister, he, with a wave of his hand, said, any Canadian scientist is free to talk to a journalist and doesn't have to have a minder or a gatekeeper, which is what federal public information officers have become here in America. And as I've been thinking about how we're going to take our next step, we're waiting because we want to give the White House the courtesy of getting back to us. The window for getting back to us is starting to close a little bit, I think. But, you know, it strikes me, you know, government employees in Canada have it better than they do here in America. And to emphasize that and to put it in those terms, I don't think is overstating. So I think you'll see that as part of our response going forward. Our president-elect has been working on a very interesting project called Access Denied. Why don't you give us a quick rundown on that? This would be a good time for that.
Yes, so if you are not familiar, Access Denied is a partnership with SPJ and Muck Rock. Muck Rock is a nonprofit group that basically helps people submit and track FOI requests, primarily, or state public records requests. They also do a really good job at, I would call it, crowdsourcing online their resources to spread the word about things, get people excited about causes. We are sort of along the same lines, seeing as from different surveys that we've done that Carolyn Carlson has led, that PIOs are either blocking or hindering access, journalist access to information, whether by, you know, not responding or delaying in response, harassing journalists when they do call a government employee directly. So we want to get a sense of where is this happening, how often it's happening, and we've created an online, basically a Google form that anyone can go on and submit information when this happens to them. We then are tracking it and going to keep it and, you know, use the data to hopefully, we'll see, bring it to the attention of lawmakers, potentially, maybe help push with this White House push. So, and I forget, I didn't check the most recent, how many people have responded. There might be, I would say last time I checked it was less than 20, so it's not too many responses that are actually in the form. But we have received, and I know Jennifer has been great at forwarding different emails as they've come in, different responses from journalists that say, oh my gosh, we're so glad someone's there for us to help us, or that's paying attention and realizes this is an issue, because we thought it was just, I thought it was just happening to me. Like, I thought it was just happening to me in Florida, or I thought it was just happening to me in, you know, this small town in Iowa. And it's like, no, it's unfortunately happening a lot of other places. I also have done several interviews, both for print, online, and radio about the project. Muck Rock is in the process right now of, with the 10 that we had, basically putting in similar requests for information that they had trouble getting, so we can then see how long it takes them to get this information and if they experience the same thing. Once that happens, we were going to do sort of another push to re-ask for the information, see what the outcome is, and highlight the project. Another idea that just came in my email like Friday, I think yesterday, New Orleans, actually, which is where EIJ is happening, is a city that their city policy is that no city employee can talk to a journalist at all. Like it's written in a policy. It's just the first one of its kind that I've seen that. So we're talking about, is there something we can do that's creative along that
That's
to
a
not
great
only
idea.
help with this project, but bring attention to the issue, and since we're gonna be in New Orleans. So I don't know exactly what that's gonna look like, but it was just an idea that was thrown out. Hey, since we've highlighted this issue in New Orleans, what can we do since we're gonna be there? So if you have ideas, anyone listening, I know I'm gonna be reaching out to see, I'm not the best like programmer, so if anyone has sort of a program idea, that would be great.
I think that would be a great idea, and I think what you are finding, and this is one of the points that we discussed with Josh Ernest, is that the closed atmosphere that we found on the federal level definitely has filtered out and permeated. I mean, it's very much a culture that has, they take their cues from the federal government, and they see, hey, if it's okay for the White House or this or that agency to do it, then we can do it here. I know within the 7 now closing in on 8 years of the Obama administration, which of course promised to be the most transparent administration in history, words that I'm sure that the president has regretted ever since he said them. And Ernest was kind of rueful and chuckled when he responded, because he knows he found Dave Collier said that it was going to be the anniversary on January 21st. And we suggested that he make some kind of statement. And he thought, no, if we do that, the press is absolutely going to skewer us, because they're going to point out the shortfall within the 7 year or the 6 years between when it was originally stated and now. So they're aware. They're certainly aware. Continuing with the list of stuff that's going on that we've had a hand in helping to make happen. The FOIA bill, the FOIA reform bill, passed the House. I know I have been, even this past week, in touch with James Ramoser, our lawyer at Baker Hostetler, in terms of how we can start to lobby senators. And he was asking me, do I know the senators in Virginia? Can I reach out to them? Yes, I'm going to. And looking ahead to July, we of course have the 50th anniversary of the Freedom of Information Act on July 4th. And with any luck, we'll be able to fix FOIA by 50. Yes?
Could we do a push for getting FOIA through the Senate like we did for the SHIELD law, and ask our members to contact their
I think that
senators?
would be a great thing, that if we could do that, if maybe we can work with Billy to set up some kind of page.
Rebecca mentioned that earlier, and we've already got the infrastructure in place. We just copy what we did before. And
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yes, our members can feel active and involved and engaged, and again, just to send, waves and waves of emails demanding their senator take this.
give us some additional exposure too.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, I'll get in touch with James as soon as I can after we go back home, and see what they recommend and how, there are a number of groups that are helping to push Sunshine in Government Initiative, among others, that are looking to get this bill through.
If you need volunteers, I'm willing to help.
Okay, I'll take you up on that. Yes, Bill?
One of the resolutions we passed at convention said SPJ should strongly urge the Senate to pass resolution 337. What was done about that resolution?
Which resolution was 337? I don't.
Senate resolution 337, which is FOI.
Okay.
Said we were supposed to urge the Senate to pass it. What has staff done?
Staff.
How did we urge the Senate to do it?
Well, it was making its way through last year. I can't remember if that resolution was referring to
Last year's bill or
last
this
year.
year?
Yeah, but we have been,
It's the same Congress, so it's the same number.
right. We've, you put me on the spot here. Like through social media, we are partnering with Sunshine in Government. They've got the hashtag #FixFOIA by 50 and a bunch of suggestions on things you can do to encourage your lawmakers to pass it. So we still on social media are pushing those messages out periodically. We created a web page on spj.org that gives people ideas on what they can do to help get it through. So And, we promote that in Leeds and everywhere else that we can periodically. I also had a call with Jonathan Anderson in the last couple of weeks talking about not only Sunshine Week coming up and things we can do there, but also with the 50th anniversary, we have some ideas on some other things that we can do to draw attention to it and try to get it passed. So
Could we maybe reach out to, like, as regional conferences are coming up? Would that be too late, or would it?
No, I don't think so. I think,
I mean, it'd be great to have like a sort of program or whatever you want to call it, like,
Mhm.
hey, please, can you like put this as a session option, or can it be like a presentation at lunch, or I don't know, something that we kind of tell people, because sometimes, we have the web page, but, just that one-on-one contact when someone's standing up in front of them, telling them what this is about and what they can do, and go to this page.
We have to do it pretty quickly because some of the program organizers will have things pretty well set, so the sooner the better.
Are we sending officers to the regionals this year?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
That
gonna
that
be,
could become just part of the speech, which should be drafted at headquarters.
that was my next, point that I was gonna suggest, is that as we fan out and go to the regionals, that we have, I think the idea of doing, following the Shield Law model with having all of the resources there for everybody. And if we urge them to go do that, that may be as effective, so. I think it was, in December, either December or very early this month, that Michael Koretsky, the Region 3 Director, put together the SMAC project, which is Student Media Aid, Cash, and Know-How. This is an effort that Michael and Jennifer and I had a meeting with Frank Lamonti of the Student Press Law Center at EIJ in Orlando. And it's a way to help student journalists with support, with money if need be, with resources, basically making sure they're aware that we are here for them and we're glad to help. So I think that's one of the things that we have been getting off the ground. Michael's been doing different things. In terms of what the Ethics Committee has been doing, our ethics chair, Andrew Seaman, has become one of our go-to spokespersons and has been doing a wonderful job in terms of representing us and providing on-point commentary very quickly. I think one of the things we've often been criticized for in recent years is not responding fast enough to events. And Andrew has been, I think he was burning the midnight oil on getting the commentary up about the University of Missouri situation. He also had a quick response on the San Bernardino shooters, where journalists went into the shooters' homes. My favorite day as being president so far was December 15th, because that was the day that we were in Washington. Jennifer, Dave Coulier, and I, and we met with the other people. In the morning, very early in the morning, we were passing around messages about how to respond or how to deal with the fact that the Las Vegas Business Journal, or Journal Review, was being sold under circumstances that were kind of murky. And Andrew got out there right on front of it, and SPJ got right into the center of that whole discussion. We were being cited, and our ethics code was being cited, right and left and sideways. And that was the morning as we were passing message back and forth. In the afternoon, we went and saw Josh Ernst. So it really was, we were right on point in doing what we do. And then most recently, Andrew wrote about Sean Penn. We talked, one of the things we talked about in our membership session is who is a journalist or not. And I think we all thought, well, Sean Penn can be a journalist as long as he follows the rules of the Code of Ethics.
Well, he committed an act of journalism, whether you like
He
it or not.
committed an act of journalism. We have, over the course of the last couple of months, almost routinely, practically one a week, or close to one a week, we get a request to join other organizations' letters to various entities to court, to complain about a court ruling, to sign an amicus brief, and Hagit's report is in the materials. We've worked on cameras in the courtroom, the Florida Sunshine Law, which is trying to shift where a requester gets mandatory fees to allowing that to be permissive upon a judge's decision or not. In my own state of Virginia, the Senate Majority Leader booted reporters from the floor of the Senate, where they have been for decades, and which also had happened over in Missouri. And so we were able to quickly get out a statement condemning that practice. I am happy to report that in Virginia, reporters are going to be back on the floor next Monday.
All right.
So,
Can I ask just an information question?
Yes, sir.
I covered the US Senate, the US House, and except for what they call dugout chatter before the session started, reporters were never on the floor. What's the big deal?
it provides access to them, to senators.
You're allowed to go up and buttonhole a senator during the debate?
After.
Maryland too.
Yeah, because the way that it was in Virginia, I went over there myself the day after this rule was instituted. You were up in a balcony about 20 feet above the action. You had to take an elevator that took 3 flights to get you there, or you had to go down 3 flights of steep stairs to, as soon as the Senate adjourns, frequently you'll be able to grab a senator, ask him or her about this or that before they head back to their office, and they stream back to their offices pretty quickly. So that is one of the benefits. The other is that you can actually see who the people are. From the vantage point that they had, the press up there, there were 2, one on either end of a crescent. You could only see half of the debate.
Okay.
You could either see the Republicans or you could see the Democrats. And particularly with new members, you don't know who's talking. And so having that proximity, the big thing that would have been a real problem is the end of session. We have short session, we have relatively short sessions in Virginia. When there are, toward the last week or so, there's a lot of movement. There are a lot of amendments to bill, there are substitute measures, and those are always produced and handed out on printed pages. I don't know how in the world they were going to get those up to the press gallery if we were way up here. So that is probably the best time to be on the floor. So, and answer your question, that's the deal. We have been supportive, and we issued a statement actually last week, urging the Missouri, I guess it's the House, isn't it, Jennifer, where the bill is for New Voices that has been introduced. The New Voices legislation started, you'll recall, in North Dakota last year. It's a way to provide First Amendment protections to student journalists at both high schools and colleges. The North Dakota effort has been a real template that a lot of states have been able to adapt. I think that there's legislation in maybe 20 that's pending that don't already have some kind of bill like that. It's something that after we issued that statement, I got several really nice notes of people appreciating our support and glad that we were helping them to fight the fight.
I believe it's going in front of Washington. I got an email from Frank Lamonte earlier this week saying that it's headed our way.
Good, that's very good news. So that is, I have our membership chair is here, and I'll ask her when we get to it to talk about membership efforts, but that's my report. I turn now to Mr. Robert Ledger, the STX Foundation president, who is here with us.
The report is in the packet because I know you have a short window here. It should take me questions, but I won't repeat what's in there.
Okay.
I would only amend that I expect that whatever I wrote that a couple of weeks ago, our holdings are lower than they were then.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The next item is actually one that we have. I guess it's an action item for our recommendation or not. Michael Koretsky has asked for a foundation grant to do a loan-a-drone program. Brendan Ballinger of the Florida Pro Chapter is willing to go on a trek similar to what Dave Collier and Charles Davis did for FOI a couple of years ago. And he would be demonstrating drones, how to use them in journalism, talking about the various things. And the idea is they want to collect footage to make some kind of presentation or I guess a YouTube video that pulls it all together and shows what is being done here. And so for our consideration is whether we would recommend to the SDX Foundation whether this grant be made or not. It's a request for $3,000. The Florida Pro chapter would match it according to Michael's application, so that Brandon would have $6,000 where he could go up and down and as far as he could in his car, and his expenses, of course, would be meals, lodging, gas, all that kind of stuff.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Rule.
Second.
Okay, I hear a motion and a second that we provide our recommendation that the foundation make this grant. Discussion.
I just want to say, based on, kind of the membership conversation that we were coming out of, to me, this is sort of that program where we're hitting an interest that maybe people who didn't know about SPJ or, we're getting sort of on the forefront. So to me, it fits with moving in the direction that we want to, sort of with membership and outreach.
Well, just like many of their other programs, it's another one that's very innovative that shows that we are kind of not only on top of the times, but we're ahead of the times. And with Brandon being, is he a freelancer now or is he working for Michael now? He might not be a freelancer anymore. Either way, Brandon's an excellent choice for this. So I support this idea. I think it's an excellent way to support drone journalism and Region 3.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I have a question, since I'm a member of SDX, am I able to vote on this, or do I have to recuse myself?
We're all members of this.
We're all members.
Okay, all right, that's
Yeah.
my question.
No, that would get to be when we actually would consider the grant or not.
Okay.
This is whether we as an executive committee would recommend, and this will come up again at the board meeting, correct, Joe?
April, yeah.
In April, that'll be another, we'll send it to the board with our recommendation. And then the board will decide in its wisdom whether it wants to recommend further or not.
Real quickly here, so everyone understands, the background behind doing it this way is the foundation has actually asked, does SPJ support this program or not? The foundation may base in part its decision on whether or not SPJ itself actually supports a program that's been pitched by SPJ members.
Well, the rest of the history is that there was a time whenever committees and individuals were sending things directly to the foundation, and we just ask that they come through the executive committee first for any vetting, so that you all have at least know what's coming from the various committees and such, and if there was an excessive number, there haven't been lately, but if there were, that you would prioritize them. We'll go it'll go to our grants committee, and it will make a recommendation. The board will have to ultimately sign off in April in New Orleans.
Is this the only proposal that we've received?
As far as I know.
Yep.
Are there any? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, at this point, not hearing a whole lot more discussion. All in favor of sending this on to the board with the executive committee recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, very good, thank you. We will report that to the board.
20 minutes, Paul.
20 minutes, okay. We are not going to be able to do the selection of an SPJ fellow because I don't want to do that under duress. I think we need to spend some time. We'll have a phone call offline, probably. We need to go ahead and do that in mid-February, wouldn't you say, Joan?
Yeah, pretty quickly, but
So-
not immediately.
Yeah, look for that in mid-February. One of the items that actually came up, and I'll talk about this very quickly so that we can move on to the other points. This past week, we were asked to sign on by the Reporters Committee, I believe, on a letter protesting the Florida bill that would shift FOIA fees or request. Someone who makes a successful FOIA request now gets mandatory fees under the Florida Sunshine Laws. That would become optional if this particular bill was passed. And the Reporters Committee was circulating a letter to a number of journalism groups. And since it's absolutely in our wheelhouse, we said yes. It went out, and Michael contacted us. He contacted the full board and the full SDX board saying, gee, Florida Pro has already done some advocacy on this. Could we get a heads up? And since then, I've given it, I told Michael that I would put this on the agenda here for our consideration and discussion. And I have an idea of how we ought to proceed. One of the things that I would really love to see us do as a group is to have a lot of local advocacy. I don't know that we have a whole lot. I don't even know exactly what we have. I'm not sure there's a central clearinghouse or that necessarily the local people are reporting it. Because I know that was one question that was sent back to Michael. It's like, well, did you make national aware that you were doing this? And I don't think, I don't know the exact back and forth of it. But what I suggest is this. We get requests to sign letters. Usually they have to be processed very quickly. If it's one where it's going to be questionable, then I would bring that to the full board for its consideration. We have not had one of those yet this year. I know, Dana, you had one or two last year that we talked about. I don't want to slow down that process. I do think that, and Jennifer and I have already been talking about how best to address this concern. And that's to make sure that we give a heads up to the RD and any local leaders that might be affected as we send it out so that it's out there. Anything that SPJ itself initiates, we have made a point based on, usually a negative example, trying to incorporate local people into the efforts. The example I have there is, I put it in the email back to Michael, is we had something come up from New Jersey literally on Thursday. And I made sure I copied Jane, the Region 1 director, in doing so. So, okay, she has a heads up, she can work on it. It may need to be resolved at a local level or not. That's another thing we've learned the hard way, is when to let, to send stuff to the national or to the local level first, rather than try to attack it on a national basis. I would like, I'm gonna finish and then I'll be glad to. I would like to know, personally, I would like to know when we have local advocacy going on. And I'll send out a note to the regional directors that they can filter it out. Because we may want to consider a time, there might be something where I might want to write a president's blog post. Or we send out, we actually, if we get good and worked up enough, write a guest editorial that Jennifer shops around to the local markets. This bill in Florida is kind of, making me make me want to pick up my pen and do something. So, I think at that point, or at this point, that's what I'd like to do, is I'd like to hear when we have local advocacy, just so we're aware of it. Because I think we've talked about, in our membership meeting this morning, we've talked about how that's one of the great things SPJ does and is known for. And I would love to see that filter down into the chapters, because that has been a traditionally one of the roles that SPJ and SDX before it has done. We were the ones who got the state shield laws passed back in the 60s and 70s, as an example. Dana.
I had a question. Does the FOI committee serve any sort of official role? Are they a clearinghouse at all?
Currently, no, but that's not a bad idea. I'll talk to Jonathan and see what they want. Yes, Bill.
The guidelines for SPJ advocacy letters from October of 14 says that any letter or news release is supposed to be sent to the board, giving them at least 30 minutes to yay or nay it. And I don't think that's being done anymore. And it later says communication strategists should contact appropriate regional director or local chapter if they're not yet involved, and see if they have planned anything and how to coordinate. We've covered this.
Okay.
And we're not doing it.
We are for letters that we initiate. I think it's been different for ones that come to us as a request just to add our name.
The last part that I read was for the ones that we initiate.
Yeah.
The first part was about letters we're asked to sign on to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was gonna be my next question, is who, like, let's say I'm a journalist in California and there's an issue going on and I want SPJ National to know about it. I don't know that it's clear to someone who's just an SPJ member, maybe a chapter member, maybe not, who they go to first. And I don't know if they're just, I don't know if that's, they contact FOI, do they contact Jennifer, do they contact the president? I mean, we see it all the time where we kind of just get CC'd on a bunch of stuff.
Or their RD.
Right, I mean, who do they contact? And to me, I don't know that a regional director in that case is the answer, if it's an individual going, because they might, who's my regional director, what
Sure.
region am I in?
Right,
Sure.
right.
Maybe it's, you know, it is someone at headquarters that is that contact, because then it's constant.
I would think that would be Jennifer, for starters, and then Jennifer, you could determine, you know, how best to send that along and who to send it along to. So that would be my answer to that.
Be a good FAQ for the website. Who do I go to if?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, that would be. How are we doing on time, Joe?
You have about 15 minutes.
15 minutes. April Bethay, our diversity chair, is here. And rather than have the reports of the diversity committees and the committee and the membership committee, since they are both here, I thought it would be nice to have them talk in person.
Hi, thank you for inviting us to come in and talk. My report is part of the packet. I think probably the biggest goals for the rest of this year would be to try to figure out how to implement some of the recommendations from our survey of past diversity fellows. I think that fits in pretty well with the discussion that we've been having so far this year or this morning about membership and figuring out how do we keep people involved in the organization, and then in cases where they may want to move up, how do we help them know what opportunities are out there. And so I think maybe that is the piece of the bigger membership discussion that the diversity committee can try to fit out. How do we, reach back out to people who have already had, a positive experience with SPJ, and how do we keep them interested or continue to be interested in the organization?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see that be our biggest priority in the next few months. And then also figuring out what's the best way for our committee or SPJ to join in, or at least spread the word about bigger discussions about media diversity. We had talked at the committee meeting at EIJ about, can we do a roundup on our blog of just, links that are being shared or just, discussions that are happening, so that, maybe there's a way for SPJ to get involved, but if not, at least telling people that these discussions are out there, that could be helpful as well.
Mhm.
So those are two items I'd like to see us do more work on
Okay,
in the next
those-
several months.
Those are two very good ideas, thank you. Let us know how we can help with making that happen. Ms. Sakula.
Thank you. The membership committee we've created a strategic plan each fall going forward into the year. And what I've concentrated on for the past 2 years are some relatively simple things that I think that we can do as a committee to help us gain some membership. And this year we've kept in mind that we were going to be doing this strategic planning. So we've gone after some things that we thought were pretty easy to do and might yield us some nice results. The first was we drafted a letter, an email to people who had left SPJ, former members. We sent out that email in early December. About 75 folks rejoined. So that's not too shabby. And that's only the ones that joined from a link and used their same old membership number. If somebody went in and created a new profile or say they've got married, have a different name, we wouldn't necessarily know that they are rejoining. But that's pretty good as far as ROI goes. We did send some letters out, so there was a little bit of a hard cost to that, but it wasn't very bad. The total on that mailing, cost us about $170, so we gained about $2,800 in new membership fees. I put my own contact information in the letter and invited people to contact me and talk to me about their membership if they would like. Had some great phone conversations with people. I exchanged a lot of emails. One of the things I asked people was to tell me a little bit about when they joined and why they joined us and why they want to come back and what SPJ what value we could provide to them going forward, what would really be meaningful to them, and what their personal interests are. We are a broad-based journalism organization. So what I wanted to know is which pocket of the world do they live in? And I was able to help connect some people with communities that might be meaningful to them. It was enjoyable, and I feel like I learned a lot just from talking to people and emailing. We also have some plans in the works to do we did the SPJ for All event last year. We'll do that again in the spring, the hashtag campaign, which was a very simple and easy idea that I thought had a lot of nice positive results. And we also, we created now on our website, we have a form that students can go on, students who are getting ready to graduate can go on and fill out and send to someone to ask them to buy them their membership going forward as a graduation present. So they just, yeah, so it's just a very easy little thing, and Tara put that together. It just went up.
I was
Yes.
gonna say, how do we get the word out? And I'm here and I can tell my chapter,
Yes.
but I mean, I think it's a great idea, but it's the old tree that falls in the forest.
Well, right, it just
went out.
The regional
Mention that.
directors, I think,
yeah,
getting to the regional directors and have the regional
push,
directors.
push.
I'm telling you, it will be good. Yes.
Yeah, it's just, it just went live like a couple of days ago.
Yes, within the past week.
So, yeah, so it's, yes, I will make sure you know, because I know that you.
Oh, yeah,
you'll help us.
we push anyway, whether they want to or not.
So I think we've done some good smaller things. We still have the member of the month. We are always seeking nominations for that. So please just keep in mind, we seek nominations by the 5th. We try to vote. We send it around to the committee to vote by the 10th, and then we try to get the post done by the 15th of every month. So we want to have somebody every month. So please keep that in mind. We think it's important to recognize the accomplishments of our members. So anyway, so that's mainly it. I do have a membership plan for the year that doesn't take into account this meeting this weekend, but if anybody would like to see it, please feel free to email me or call me and I'll be glad to send it to you.
It's part of the exec committee materials.
Sure, but if there's anybody watching on TV or anybody who isn't part of the executive committee who would like to see it, I'm happy to share it.
Well, or they can go to the website.
Or that.
They can do that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Time left.
5.
5.
10.
He's the official one.
Okay.
There are a number of committee and task force reports that you'll find in the packet. I will not refer to those. The last two things that I want to do, they are discussion items, one relatively quick and one that we'll end up having a phone call on later on. You'll recall that we, in Orlando, with Steve Guyman leaving to go to London after 19 years as the accrediting council rep for SPJ, we were forced to find a new rep and figure out a way for doing it because it had been so long since Steve had been in that position, we didn't have a mechanism for doing so. I sent out the proposal from Steve himself to at least get something on the books for how to do it. Lynn has come up with, I think, a good suggestion and an amendment that we can talk about at the board. The way that it was originally recommended by Steve and what I put up last fall was that it was a presidential amendment subject to presidential appointment, subject to approval by the board. Lynn is suggesting that we make it a board appointment, which I think is a fine way to shift it. And it would be, we have a pretty good system now for selecting a new RD because we've had to do it twice. We'll be doing it again very shortly for Rob McLean's seat in the 7th district. So that'll be coming up in April for board consideration. The other thing that'll be coming up for consideration for the board in April will be potential bylaws amendments, and the membership representation task force, which Dana appointed me to head. And then when I became president, I appointed Alex Turquinio to take over the work. We'll have two proposals, and currently she and the Bylaws Committee are working on potential wording, whatnot. One is to establish a system of at-large delegates to take care of the 41% problem. You'll recall that we learned with some good hard data, finally, that we have members who are, a substantial number of members who are not chapter members. And the only way that you get a voice at convention is to be a chapter member. And so we're seeking, and the task force is seeking to come up with a way to change that. The other thing that the task force is going to do is a new initiative, which is going to be establish a way that it's kind of like one member, one vote light or modified, where there would be the convention, if it so desired, would be able to put a matter out for binding referendum among the members. That if it felt like there was an issue, it wanted to have the full position of the membership, they could do so. Is that a fair statement of what the proposal is all about? Bill?
The convention being the, whatever we call it, the primary body, whatever, can do that now. There's no need for bylaws change. In fact, has done in the past.
Okay. Well.
So that's accomplished.
That was easy.
I like changing
What else you need?
checkboxes. Okay, thank you. So what we'll do is that once we have proposals from the task force and the bylaws committee, they're still hashing out language. All the information, the memoranda is all on the board site, or on the executive committee materials site, so that we have all the data out there. Everybody can take a look at it, and we'll be talking probably in March, maybe. Do you think, Robert?
I just had go ahead and finish your thought. I just had a question. Whenever.
No, go ahead.
The supplemental material you sent out indicated that the bylaws committee had not conflicting, an alternate proposal. Are you doing anything with that?
I think it's all up there on the table for discussion, and I imagine that we will, when we meet, to consider the amendment, because they did draft an amendment. Alex went back to Bob Becker and said, we've already been working on this, and here's the change we'd like to make. That's why we don't have anything now.
Right.
Is that there's a second draft in the works, yes?
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying, Bob had an entirely, the committee apparently had an entirely different idea from the task force as to how to address the problem. And how are you resolving those?
It's a virtual
Is it
task
for the whole board to
which I think
discuss?
we tried before.
I think right now the task force and the bylaws committee are working together to figure out what to do with that. And that'll be the work of Alex and the group, about half of whom are here,
Yeah, well,
frankly.
and the other point I was gonna point out, not everyone on the task force agreed. So that's something too. I know personally, I did not agree with what went forward. I was in the minority. So that's something too. I mean, it was the task force that came together. There was a recommendation. It wasn't 100%. So.
Okay.
Right, no,
This
no, I know.
organization rarely
I know,
is.
but so there are
Well, we'll
definitely
take it.
like
Yeah.
multiple basically options that will be discussed, maybe potentially.
Bill?
Yeah, can I just suggest, I think part of the answer to Robert's question is the bylaws committee was working on its smokestack, and the other committee was working in its smokestack. And it was just before this meeting, the two swapped proposals. And as you pointed out, they're very different. And I wonder if it might be possible for either you or the chairs of those two committees to appoint someone to cross-populate the other committee, so that the membership committee has the benefit of bylaws committee's thinking and vice versa, and we don't get so far apart in our smokestacks.
Yeah, well, I think that's already happening online. I think that cross-pollination is already happening where.
But it happened after the ideas were already.
True, but I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think now that both sides realize, or both groups realize what the other is doing, I think now Alex and Bob especially are taking the lead on working together going forward.
That is what I would hope would happen. I mean, that's why we are delaying doing anything today, so that they have that option. And it's been a fairly fast moving thing, particularly in the run up to this meeting, which is why
Yeah.
we want to have all the information out so that we can make the best decision for SPJ. I think is the best way to put it. And we'll see where Alex and Bob go, Robert, and answer your question. So, time. Joe.
You have 4 minutes until 1, so I would recommend we wrap it up.
Okay.
Are we gonna vote on the AJMC thing now? On Lynn's proposal?
I guess sometimes we have done that, haven't we, where we say what the executive committee recommends? Would
Yeah,
that be
we,
one of those times? It could be, okay.
it could be. Everybody understand the, I think I laid out pretty clearly what Lynn is proposing. Do we have, I'll entertain a motion to recommend.
So moved.
Second.
And I would just change one thing,
Sure.
for point number 5, says SPJ will continue to pay ... the reps' travel expenses. Steve's been paying them himself, so if you take the word continue out, then it does the same thing.
Okay, and that was the charge that we got from the convention.
That's right.
So, okay, removing the word continue. All in favor of passing this on to the board with the executive committee's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you for the improvement. So, we have, what, maybe 2 minutes for anything else?
Just in time for a motion to adjourn, sir.
So you can eat and we can take a quick break before we
Yeah, that
start
might be a good
again.
idea, since you all eat your lunch and mine is sitting here. I'll entertain, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Well, you guys are fast. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Anyone watching, thank you very
Thank
much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Right.